This is attorney Shellen Washington, owner and founder of the Washington Law Firm located at 455 Utica Avenue in Brooklyn, New York. We're specialized in medical malpractice, personal injuries, matrimonial law, and landlord and tenant. If you're in need of legal representation, please give us a call today. The number to call is 718-877-3100. Consultation is free at no cost to you. So call us today to see if we can be of any assistance to your legal needs. Again, the phone number to call us is 718-877-3100.
All right. Hey, guess what? Good evening. And welcome to Straight Up. It's 9 minutes after 9 o'clock on the 30th day of June. And where do we start with? Let's start with a broken system, a broken justice system in Guyana that some folks were trying to tell us that we should sit back, relax, stop talking, and allow the system to work. Well, for those of you who heard already that the system that they want us to work, sit back and allow it to work, isn't working at all, especially when it comes to folks who are economically depressed. It's just not working. I don't want to say poor people, whatever. It is just not working for the ordinary man, the ordinary woman. It is not working at all. And this is a very, very depressing night, especially for those of you who have already heard the news that the little girl, the 16-year-old girl, who in a report said she was raped, she was sodomized by a sitting government minister. She said, "This was my first time and I was in a lot of pain." All of these, I don't need to read it. She said it all. She told her story to the world. She pleaded to the world for help. Some of them sided with the accused with the sole intention of getting the accused off and to hell with the rights of the little girl. And now I don't know why they said protective custody and all these different things. They made the situation a living hell for this little girl. A living hell. They made the entire situation for her. And knowing very well that they were the intention was basically, to force her. That was the intention, force her to withdraw her statement. Now, let me just break this down for you guys. And do forgive me when I say break it down. It's not like I think that you guys don't understand what's happening. Of course you do. Let's go through exactly what happened. First, we heard the file took a little while to be sent to the DPP chambers. When it got to the DPP chambers, the DPP took a little while before she said something. She was more concerned about people protesting in front of her office calling for justice. She was more concerned about that. All of them want to look clean. All of them want to appear to be clean. And so they give all of us this impression about let the system work. And so they rush out and they say, let the system work. What system? All the time they were just basically attempting to brainwash the Guyanese people into believing that at some point in time the system would work. The truth is, the system doesn't work in Guyana. The system does not work. The system, the justice system, is broken. Compliments of these folks, the DPP, shame on you. Shame on Shalimar Haq. Shame on the DPP chambers. Shame on these guys. Shame on this guy, Irfan Ali. Shame on him. They never wanted the system to work. They knew exactly what they were up to from the scratch, from day one. They knew what they were up to. Maybe that is why they didn't want to go with any other sort of their pro PPP lawyer. So they knew this was a trick. They knew what they were up to from day one. They knew what they were up to. They knew that Dharamlal would not be charged. They knew that they were going to find a way out. They knew that this day would come. So this is what they did. After the file, and this is my opinion, mind you, this is a shameful, despicable so-called human being on the screen. He sits there as the so-called president of Guyana. He is despicable. Came from this to where he is today. Now, I don't, look, let me say this to you guys. When the news broke about the file being returned to the police for further investigations, right off the bat, red flag, red flag, red flag. And now we all are not dotish people. We are not dotish people. Sorry about that, guys. We are not dotish people. We knew exactly what was going on, especially those of us who have been there on the system, understand the system. We already knew that, no, wait a minute. Something isn't right here at all. And if you recall, a couple of years back, there was a story, a guy kidnapped some girls and one of the Caucasian girl ran into the hands of a black guy. And the black guy said, look, the minute I knew that a white girl ran into the arms of a black man, I knew that something was wrong. Well, the minute that I saw that this DPP sent back this file to the police, I knew something was wrong. I knew something wasn't adding up. I knew they were up to their old tricks. I knew that they were trying to find a way to ensure that this guy is not going to be charged. And so I am not surprised at all, guys. I am just not surprised at all. The Guyanese people are fed up. Whether and we're talking about those who don't get justice for their loved ones. Whether they're Africans, whether they are of East Indian extract, it doesn't matter. You should be fed up. All of you should be fed up of this system. Because had it been your daughter, had it been your sister, had it been your niece, or whomever, or even someone in your village, in your community, if you are not fed up of what's happening. And now don't tell me that the little girl, oh, she decided that she's just going to drop it like that. She was forced to do it. And let me get back to what happened here. Again, my opinion. When the DPP sent this file back to the police, It was done solely with the intention of buying time. Try to find ways to buy time. And that is what they were up to. They were buying time. Shame on the DPP. Again, I say shame on the DPP. They all knew what they were up to from day one. They were never focused on having this guy, Nigel Dharamlal, charged. They were not focused on that at all, period. They were trying to find a way to ensure that he gets out of any charge. So they were just fooling people. Oh, they sent the file back. If they sent a file, rape allegations, they took statements from the girl, they took from the girl's 8-year-old brother. I am certain that they took from others. You're telling me there wasn't sufficient information there at all, at all, to institute a charge of rape against this vagabond? But no, they had to send the file back. They had to send the file back to the police so that this final thing that we are seeing, they can cook this thing up. That's just my opinion. Meanwhile, they say, let us all shut up. Don't do anything. Don't say anything. Let us put our hands up and throw back and let the system work. Throw back and let the system work. That is all they're concerned about, Let the system work. All the time they were tricking us. It's like a three-card trick, a three-card game. That is what they were up to. Shame on all of them who said, let the system work. Well, the system worked. Good evening, Attorney at Law Shellen Washington. Well, Miss Washington, the system worked, right? It sure did work, did it? Are you surprised? Are you surprised? Are you surprised hearing this news here tonight? Sorry about that. Are you surprised hearing this news here tonight that complainant in Dharamlal matter has asked to withdraw allegation? And this is coming from the crime chief of the Guyana Police Force. Your take.
First of all, let me say good night to you, Mark, and good night to everyone listening tonight, and to all of you who've shared the link and you're paying attention to what is happening in Guyana. I predicted this. Even last night, I was saying this is a setup. The file going back to the police, it doesn't make any sense, because the first thing should have happened is Dharamlal should have been charged even before the file even went to the DPP, because the Sexual Offense Act, or Sex Offenses Act in Guyana, allows for charges to be laid against an accused just based on statements from the victim and, corroborating witnesses. And then, there's a papal committal rather than a PI in Guyana. The act allows for that. So the mere fact that the file went to the DPP before any charges is even laid, we already knew what was, the writing was on the wall, that they were intending to allow Dharamlal to control the system. And, we are looking at a government that's really, really corrupt. We're looking at a corrupt DPP. We're looking at a system that is broken. It's really, really broken. And there's no way for it to work until you could clean up from the head, come down. The government, it has to be cleaned up. If you have a corrupt government with criminals and thugs, there's no way that you could rely on the police to be honest and transparent with performing their job. We knew that this was going to happen, and this is why I've been saying from the beginning that even if we can't sustain enough evidence for a conviction or even a charge, this does not mean Dharamlal is not a pedophile. He's still classified as a pedophile because that's a social construct. But whether or not he's guilty or innocent when it comes to the criminal aspect of it, that's a whole other story. And we knew this was coming. This is no surprise, and it should be a surprise to none of the Guyanese people. We've seen this is a repetition of what always happened. If you have connection, if you have money, you control the system.
And that is so right. You have money, you have connection, and you're corrupt. You control the system, and you control a lot of those corrupt individuals who are heading the system. We have here Mr. Caesar, good evening to you, sir. Sure, by now you got the news that the complainant decided to, according to the news, that is, she decided to withdraw allegation. That's according to the crime chief. So nothing, no charges, nothing against Dharam Lal, and so he's walking free. Are you surprised, sir? Good evening.
Mark, I'm not surprised. It's a lot of pressure. They were parading this young lady back and forth in different places, and we got to remember this: that Wendell Blanham is also a lawyer. And if he would have cross-examined or interviewed this young woman, he would have broken her down already. So I am not surprised one bit, but I am still waiting to see if this man would be allowed to step in our parliament. That's what I'm waiting to see.
That's what a lot of people are waiting to see. In fact, we have had statements already issued on that subject coming from Roysdale Ford, who said that Dharamlal must be fired. Lincoln Lewis has said the same. Dharamlal should be fired. Others have said the same. Dharamlal should be fired. You have said it, Caesar. Miss Washington has said it. Most of our people watching this program have said it. What do you think, Miss Washington, about the fate of Darren Lau?
You know, the DPP needs to wake up and realize that they're not they're not showing the Guyanese people any form of transparency. And if they decide to keep Dharam Lal or restore him to his position, the Guyanese people are not going to sit and let this go. Because even if you decide not to charge Dharam Lal, even if there was pressure on the victim, even if money was passed somewhere, which we don't know the fullness of what happened, but we do know that there's certain things that could be inferred from all of this that we look at and we see is going on. And his fate should be no less than you are terminated. You are not allowed, sir, to ever serve in public office again. So we don't care if they decide that they're going to do a cover up and they're going to let you get off criminally, because morally and ethically you're still on the line, you're still a pedophile. So even if the DPP decides that it was consensual or whatever it is that caused the DPP to send back the file, which made no sense whatsoever, we don't know. But even if they decide, okay, we're not going to charge him, we're not going to lay any charges, he's not going to be tried for the commission of a crime, he's still on the hook morally. He has a moral obligation. He's serving. He set his foot in a public office to serve the people of Guyana, and he owes them that duty to be honest, to stand for integrity, to stand for moral value, for stand for truth. And he needs to resign, or Afanali needs to terminate him. The people of Guyana are not going to rest until Dharam Lal is terminated. He should never be allowed to serve in any public office in Guyana ever again. He is a pedophile.
You know, thousands upon thousands of people need to hit the streets and ensure that they do so in a manner that is lawful, mind you, but thousands upon thousands of people should start hitting the streets, should shut the country down with this here. Mind you, coming up sometime next week, Secretary of State Blinken is expected in Guyana on Thursday, the 6th of July. Thousands upon thousands of Guyanese need to hit the streets and protest so that Blinken can know that all is not well in Guyana. And if possible, to cancel his visit to meet with any one of these guys in the installed regime. Mr. Caesar, Blinken, U.S. Secretary of State, is scheduled to be in Guyana next week. Are you surprised that he's heading to Guyana?
I am not surprised one bit, Mark. All the dignitaries are going to be heading down to Guyana right now. It's a financial hub there. Everybody's investing right and left, and they're basically making the deals with the devil, because that's exactly what this government is. It's just business deal after business deal and nothing for the people. So listen, there's a lot of US interest in Guyana. So I could see Mr. Blinken coming down to Guyana for a visit. And I would really, really like to know what those discussions that he's going to have with this installed government is going to entail. And if any of the discussions is going to be about the people of Guyana, because you know something, Mark, these people come and they all gather and they talk business and all the different stuff that they do talk about, but they always tend to forget the people. The people are always last. They're always forgotten about. So, I'm gonna sit back and wait and see what this visit by Anthony Blinken is gonna look like.
Absolutely. And he is due to be in Guyana on the 6th of July. That's next Thursday. Uh, this tomorrow is Saturday, then Sunday, and then Monday. There's a holiday in Guyana. I'm sure that is a sufficient time to bring the people out in the streets as of Tuesday, bright and early Tuesday. Shut the entire country down. Thousands of people should march to the streets, march in front of the office of the president, march in front of Freedom House, just march in front of the DPP chambers and shut the country down. Nothing is wrong with people exercising their constitutional rights so that Blinken, Secretary of State Blinken, can see and hear for himself that things are not regular in Guyana. Miss Washington, what is your take on U.S. Secretary of State visit to Guyana?
I think the Secretary of State is more interested in the business of the United States versus what is happening in Guyana. I think what is happening there is of low priority. Guyana has a lot of wealth, and to the outsiders who have business that interests in Guyana, I think that's more paramount versus looking at the corruption or whatever it is that is happening there. I think that's our obligation. We, the people of Guyana, should look into our own interests and stop wanting to rely on outside influence to help us out, because most of what happens, changes in a country, usually happens from inside. Internally, the citizens are the one who takes to the street. The citizens are the one who fights. Even in the United States here, when Martin Luther King had to fight for equality in this country, they took to the streets. The people are the ones who went and fought for their rights, fought for what they believed they were entitled to at the time. And I think it's the same with Guyana. We, the people, we cannot continue to look for outside influence to come and help us, because they're going to take care of their interests. They're going to look out for their own interests, whatever is more important to them. But to us, the people of Ghana, what is paramount to us is having a democratic society, is pushing and forcing those who decide to step into public office to do what is right, what is morally and ethically correct. So I think either way, Blinken is going to decide, or whatever, whoever decides the time frame to go to Ghana, he's going to go, because whatever is the interest of the United States at that point, that's what is going to be paramount. And it's us, the people. We are the ones who have to push for what we're looking for. We have to fight for what we want.
Absolutely. 31 minutes after 9 o'clock, Secretary of State, U.S. Secretary of State Blinken is due to be in Guyana on the 6th. That's next Thursday. This report that the young victim, has decided that she no longer wants to proceed with her allegations and possible charges against Dharam Lal. And so I can just imagine what the cops were telling her, what they were investigating, how they were pressuring her. The manner in which they were asking questions were obviously with the intention of ensuring that they pressure the victim. Where, Miss Washington, what can possibly happen now without the help of the victim?
I mean, in Guyana, they rely heavily on the evidence, the statement, the testimony. I mean, even though we know that there's paper committal in Guyana, just based on the statement, the charges could be laid against Dharam Lal. But when it comes to prosecuting before the High Court, the victim would definitely be required to testify, because it's at that point the criminal defense attorney would test the veracity of the witness's testimony or statement. The defense attorney doesn't get to examine or cross-examine in any way the victim at the time of the papal committal, because everything is done or submitted on paper. And the only thing that Nigel Hughes could have done is review those statements and determine whether or not he could have made a no case submission. But since this didn't even get to the point where it was before a magistrate, they didn't even give it a fighting chance, because that's the way it should have been done. The police should have laid the charges. The files should not have been sent to the DPP. It should have gone before a magistrate. The magistrate is the one who made the decision. He or she makes the decision as whether or not the case should go to trial in the high court. And then once the magistrate makes that decision or determination, then the file can go to the DPP, because that's when the DPP is required to prosecute. But the people of Guyana are blindsided because they don't know how the system works. And because they're ignorant of their own system, the DPP and the police could just maneuver everything and cause you guys to believe that this is the way it should be. But I bid you, please, this is not the way it is. The police are the ones. Everything is initiated at the stage of the police level. It goes to the police. The police interview the witnesses. They take the witness statements, and then once they get enough statements, I mean, this is a sexual offense, so it falls under the Guyana Sexual Offenses Act. And then once they are done doing that, compiling their file, they send it to the magistrate. The magistrate is now, previously there would have been a preliminary inquiry, but because of the Sexual Offenses Act in 2013, as I understand, there's no more a requirement for a preliminary inquiry. So it's done on paper. So it's now a paper committal. So the defense attorney doesn't get the opportunity to cross-examine anyone at that stage, because once a decision is made that there's a sufficient evidence on the file to send it to the DPP and then to go for trial before the High Court, then that's the end of that. But we know this never made it before a magistrate, and magistrate never got sight of this, because we knew from the beginning this was a setup. I said it from the jump when I heard that Dharam Lal was on bail for nothing. You cannot be placed on bail unless there is a charge. There's a purpose for bail. What is the purpose for bail? Bail is to secure the attendance of an accused person before a court. How are you going to put somebody on bail who wasn't even charged? Make it make sense, Guyana. And Guyanese need to recognize all this irregularities that goes on in the system is just to fool you, is to trick you into believing that there's some level of transparency when there's actually none. It's a corrupt system you're living in, and you need to fight to get it cleared up. Fight to get it transparent, and fight to get, we need a democratic society where things are, done in a fair manner, done in the right way. We don't need, this is 2023, and we're still living in a country, essentially we could call it a dictatorship, where the government controls the police, controls the DPP, and that's not the way it is done in a true democratic society.
Well said, Miss Washington, attorney at law. 35 minutes after 9 o'clock. And let's go to Mr. Caesar. Mr. Caesar, a lot of folks out there are not happy at all with this decision. And they feel that it has been a conspiracy from the beginning and corruption also. What sort of message this is sending, to the ordinary folks when it comes to our justice system, or the justice system there in Guyana? That seems to be more injustice.
Well, Mark, it shows that, the justice apparatus, is not working. It's not functioning the way that it should function. And, I just want to jump back to Mr. Darmlal here, and Shellan walk me through on this too. Listen, if he is innocent, Miss Washington, wouldn't you want to file a counterclaim of defamation of character or something in that realm, to not come back with anything? I think, it further proves that something happened there, because if it was me and these accusations was leveled against me, I would be irate, and then once the person recanted, then, I was going to come back at that person because I know that I'm innocent, and that person would have, messed with my character and who I am. But, this is not happening here. So, this guy, how could one not call him a pedophile? And he should not be allowed in parliament. He should not be allowed next to people's children outside of his own, you know, it's just ridiculous, Mark, and it shows no, our justice system in Guyana doesn't work because the whole thing is corrupt. There's collusion with the government, the justice system. The DPP shouldn't be there. She's not independent in fact and appearance. There's a whole lot about her. She sent back the case to the police so that they could buy time to get this on the hand deal completed.
You know,
Darmlal, as you and Shellon would have noted earlier, there was no way that this guy could have been charged. He is
you
purview to too much information, Mark. Too many heads would
you
roll
know,
if this guy is charged.
one of the things that we want to, of course, definitely, he wouldn't come forward and try to have any lawsuit about defamation of character and them nonsense that he got to be ashamed if he does something like that. The evidence is already out there. What the young lady said, she merely withdrew because she was under pressure, and we can just imagine what else happened behind the scene. What do you think went through? You have dealt with a lot of cases like these, in court and matters pertaining to clients and so forth. What must have gone through her mind there? We want to hear this from a legal person. What really transpired when the police was actually interrogating her?
Mark, a lot of times with victims, especially of sexual offenses, they're scared, they're shamed, they're embarrassed, and then the pressure, it feels like torture a lot of times. And if they don't have a good support system, they're being counselors to guide them through, to comfort them, and to ensure that they're protected from public's opinion. I mean, it's easy for a victim to decide that I don't want to go through with this, especially in a country like Guyana, where a victim is criminalized or villainized. Oftentimes in Guyana, we have seen this from the get go, from the beginning. The way the police, the very police officer who you showed his picture on this program earlier, where he attempted to influence the victim to drop her story. So there's a lot of factors that plays into a victim's mind and influences that person one way or the other. It could be pressure from family also, because one of the things we were told, and I don't know whether or not it's true, but the mother, we were told, works in the office that Daram Lal works in. And if that is true, I hope it's not, but if it's true, it could very well play into that. She could be thinking about her job. She could be thinking about means of putting food on the table. And it's a sad situation that victims of violent sexual crimes in Guyana often has a plethora of factors that they're considering, especially based on who the accused person is. They're not well protected in a country like Guyana. No one protects the victim. So I could imagine the pressure that she was feeling to continue to prosecute this. And then she have maybe her mother or father on one. I don't know what was going on with them, and I don't know if the mother was pressuring the child to withdraw. I do not know, but most of the times it's family issues, is the pressure. If the police is corrupt, is pressure on different angles. And then if you don't have an attorney, in this case, we know that the victim was denied the right to have an attorney there with her when she was being interviewed, and maybe she would have felt more safe having somebody there to protect her rights when she answered questions. But they denied her this very right to have an attorney, even though, she is a victim, and, she was entitled to certain things to protect her, to help her to feel protected. And she is a child, essentially. So there's a lot of things that goes into play in determining whether or not a victim would go through. And this is very common. There's a lot of times when victim decides that they're not going to go through with their with pressing charges against an accused person engaged in sexual misconduct. There's a lot of pressure. There's
A lot of pressure. Looking at this from the beginning, we saw the signs, obvious signs that there was on their way to covering this matter up. Miss Washington, you saw those signs as well?
Yeah, I saw it. I said from the beginning that because we had witness tampering, we had evidence tampering, There was a lot going into this, and I was telling the people of Ghana not to trust the system. It's a setup. I said it from day one that this was a setup, and then eventually, this is what the DPP had intended to do. This is what the government of Ghana had intended to do. This is what the police had intended to do, to bring this to this point and then have everything just be swept under the rug. This is normal in a corrupt country like Ghana, where things get exposed and then they just sweep it calmly under the rug. Guyana is not a country like America where you'd have a former president being indicted, being arrested and indicted on criminal charges, and then being tried before the court. Guyana is not the type of country that would allow for the system to be fair and transparent and allow nobody to be above the law. A lot of these people in Guyana, they are above the law essentially because they control money, power controls the system in Guyana. And you have a corrupt government, so you have a corrupt police system. And not that I'm saying that there are none of them who might be without, without blemish, but the system itself with the people at the very top, the writing was already on the wall from the beginning. And this is why I never stress on this show to repeatedly call Dharam Lal a rapist, because to be able to call him a rapist, he had to go through the legal system. This is why I've always referenced him as a pedophile, because I know the word pedophile equals a social construct. You don't need to be convicted to be considered a pedophile. All that needs to happen is you have a preference for children, for engaging in sexual activities with children. And we know this to be, there's evidence out there that points to Dharam Lal being a pedophile. And I think this would answer your question that you alluded to earlier, Wayne, that about Dharam Lal filing a defamation suit. He cannot, because the truth of the matter is, if he attempted, I'm pretty sure that young girl is going to bring out all the guns to defend herself. And then we're going to know for sure that, hey, this guy is indeed a pedophile, because look at all the evidence. And we know that there are other victims that are coming forward with the same identical story as this one who was recanted. I'm not surprised at all that she's recanted. I was expecting this from day one. And this is why I only focus on pedophilia. He's a pedophile. I did not focus on the criminal aspect at all because I was never confident about the judicial system in Ghana. The system is broken because you know what? The criminal aspect, that is, because we know that there are judges who sit and convene on civil cases, and they've done a lot of justice, like Justice Sandil and Justice Gino Prasad. We know that they're good judges in Ghana, but we know as it relates to the criminal aspect of the system, because it has to go through the police and the DPP, we know that part there is severely broken and it needs to be fixed.
Severely broken, needs to be fixed. 45 minutes after 9 o'clock, Mr. Caesar. Knowing how these vagabonds in the PPP operate, they wouldn't see it as a problem to send this vagabond back into Parliament, one, and also to have him head back there in his ministry as the senior minister of local government. Do you foresee that happening, or do they have what is some sort of moral value or some fabric within them, some minor bit of that they would not send this guy back into Parliament, that they would not send him back there as the minister? Do you see that happening at all?
Mark, you speak of moral values. I don't think the PPP has that. Um, are they going to send him back to Parliament? Mark, I cannot say no. I cannot say no. I am certain that they will attempt to do it. And listen, if Nigel Darmlal is allowed to step foot in our Parliament again, it's not just a disgrace to the PPP. It's a disgrace to the people of Guyana, because it's the people of Guyana who goes out and vote for government. And come 2025, they should know that they definitely have to do better, way better. This is a disgrace, Mark. This is horrible to have someone of this nature of character in our Parliament. This guy is just flat out ridiculous and should be nowhere near the Parliament. But like I said, Mark, and like we have been saying all the time, this is how the PPP government is constructed. And I recant that word, government. That's not a government. We don't have a government in Guyana right now. And we definitely do not have democracy in Guyana.
You know, Miss
People,
Washington. Sorry, go ahead, Mr. Caesar. Finish up, please.
the
Sorry.
people of Guyana, Mark, is who would have to fight for there to actually be. And I think Shellan would have quoted this earlier. You have to fight for democracy. It is not going to be given to you. Guyana is definitely not a democracy. It's more so leaning towards a dictatorship.
Miss Washington, well said, Mr. Caesar. Do you see this in within the next 72 hours that people are going to go out? Let me see how well you know your fellow Guyanese. Uh, Within the next 72 hours, are they going to go out in their numbers, especially uh, seeing the news that Blinken, U.S. Secretary of State, is due for a visit there on the 6th of July. Do you see your fellow Guyanese going out and hitting the streets and calling for justice and for the removal from Parliament of Nigel Darmlal and as a Minister of Government? Do you see that happening?
Although I have no confidence in the system, in the local judicial system, starting with the police and then the DPP, I do have a lot of confidence in the people of Guyana. I do believe my fellow Guyanese have morals and good values. And I do believe that they understand what is just and what is right. And from the time I was a child growing up, I've always seen Guyanese take to the street when they see that things doesn't look right and they wanted to go the way that they believe that their votes was meant to be. Or I've seen Guyanese people take to the street and do what is honorable to represent themselves in the most dignified way. So I have confidence. I have a lot of confidence in the people of Guyana. Just like what they did in the local elections, they came out in their numbers and they stood for justice. They stood up for what is right, and they showed the PPP that they're not going to stand for the corruption anymore. They're not going to stand for the ignorance anymore. I just have a lot of faith and a lot of confidence in my people that we are not people who are slack concerning the things that we want to see in our future, the things that we want to see our children enjoy at some point. Even if you're not there to see your grandchildren, your children, your grandchildren, we want Guyana to be a better place. And I have so much confidence that the people of Guyana will come out in numbers and they will protest and they will make it clear that Mr. Afranali will not allow a pedophile to sit in a public place. We cannot have pedophiles in high places. We got to pull those strongholds down. I'm very confident that the Guyanese people understand this and they will work towards it.
Understanding it and working towards it, that's a lot of optimism there in you. And I don't want to take that away, that optimistic spirit that you have. I have a bit of optimism too, but not as much as you do, that the Guyanese people are going to go out in their numbers. I'm not sure how much the leadership of the opposition would support such a mass protest at this point in time, especially since Mr. Blinken, the U.S. Secretary of State, is due for a visit there in Guyana. He might be also planning on meeting with some members of the opposition. And some members of the opposition may want to take that opportunity to have a photo op or maybe shake Mr. Blinken's hand, as opposed to going and hitting the streets and let Mr. Blinken know that all is not well. Possibly have Mr. Blinken go and talk on the protest line with the people. Of course, that's being a bit far fetched there. But Mr. Caesar, are you as optimistic as Miss Washington as it pertains to people hitting the streets, Guyanese hitting the streets and calling for the immediate removal of Nigel Darmlal? Are you that optimistic, sir?
Yeah, Mark, I would line up with Shellan on that because we have been edifying the people. They know what's going on. They have a good understanding of what's happening here, and they know, Mark, at some point they've got to stand up and they've got to check this situation. And this is the perfect time. We have a lot of irons in the fire. It's not just about Darmlal. It's about us having a local government elections, and until now, the Guyana Election Commission cannot pronounce on the elections. This doesn't bode well for 2025. Are you telling me that we're going to have a general elections and there would be no pronouncement? We wouldn't know who would have won or who would have lost the election, and the PPP would just be allowed to sit there. So there's a lot of reasons for the Guyanese people to get out and protest in their numbers, all villages, and shut Guyana down. Shut down Guyana. It's about time. We've been dealing with this mark for some time now, and the posture of the government have not changed, and we're not going to back down. Guyana belongs to the people of Guyana. It doesn't belong to external business people. They weren't there from kickstart. It's the people of Guyana who would have been there. Now the country, is reaping from the oil patrimony, and the people are just not gaining anything from it. They continue to live below the poverty line. We're not going to continue to stand for that mark. We're going to take a frontal position, and I would agree if the people would come out and shut Guyana down. And I think that's exactly what would happen.
And
What will happen?
a lot of phone calls and a lot of emails and so forth should be going to Mr. Blinken's office by thousands of Guyanese in a form of protest, in the form of a petition to say direct phone calls to his office and emails to say that, look, things are not regular, things are not that good. In Guyana, you have a questionable regime, despite the fact you have the likes of a Wesley Curtin and those guys always jumping to defend. They're nowhere part of the struggle when folks are going whatever they're experiencing under this corrupt regime. We don't see the likes of a Wesley Curtin standing on the side of justice, standing on the side of the people. It's always a quick hustle. So we know those few vagabonds who are just basically out there for the little bowl of soup. But looking at the time, 53 minutes after 9 o'clock, let the system work. Let the system work. Certainly, with your level of optimism, Miss Washington, and which is a good thing, mind you, do you still have that level of optimism that very near in the future, especially under this corrupt, illegal PPP regime, that the system will work?
Like the system would never work under the PPP. They have showed us that for 20 something, 20 plus years, that the system will never work under them. We've had a situation where we've seen extrajudicial killing. We've seen rapists, murderers walk free without even being touched by the system, not even a charge from the police, not even going through a preliminary inquiry and then being put before the high court for a trial. We've seen a fair share of corrupt practices in Guyana going without checks or balances. We've had decades long of money laundering, drug smuggling. Guyana is at a prime its position where there's a lot of things that is happening there that I think the FBI is aware of, the US government is aware of. But under this government, I don't think it's even possible for us to even talk about the system working. The system is broken and it will remain broken. Shalimar is the type of person that I think she jumps to the music. So whatever tune is playing, she just jumps to the tune. She just dances to it. She's not the type of person that goes against the tide. She's the type that just whatever she's told to do, she just follows orders, because whoever placed her there, it's a political affiliation. And that's what we need to understand in Guyana. Everything is politically affiliated. And because of that, those people placed in those offices have loyalties to somebody above them. So they just dance to the music. And until we have a different breed of people, or until we have a different government that understands integrity, understands morals, values, understand that there is a separation of powers, and that the police shouldn't influence the DPP and the DPP should not influence the police, and that the government should have no hands or say in what the police does, and the police should act as an independent body. Until we have a government that recognizes these things, I will have no confidence that the system would ever work. The system is broken because the government is broken. We have a situation where we have people sitting in government who have criminal history. They have a whole rap sheet behind them. So there's just no way that we can expect to have a system that will work when we're sitting under people who themselves have a rap sheet. There's reason why in certain countries like the United States, like if you want to serve in certain offices, they'll do a background check on you, and if you don't pass that background check, you're not entitled to serve. Even in the military, you have to do a background check in the United States. In Guyana, there's no background check. There's no checks and balances. We would put a convicted villain in an office and let them sit. We would put a pedophile in office and let that person sit. Why? Because the people of Guyana, some of them are sitting silently. I do not know what the opposition is doing, but they need to speak up. They need to get to the street, encourage the people to get out there, because we should not sit silent on these social issues that are affecting our democracy, that is bringing our democracy down. And we have so much money. We have the oil money, and the world now knows who Guyana is. Prior to now, I never even heard Guyana spoken on the news. But when the fire happened with the victims, it was all over the news. It was international news. So we are now recognized, and because now everyone knows who we are, we must do what is right. We must appear to be a country that stands for integrity. We must have some sort of dignity. We must pull down. We got to pull down those strongholds. Strongholds in high places must go.
The police is saying, thank you so much, Miss Washington. The police is saying here that Dharamlal rape allegation, alleged victim did not undergo more questioning. That's according to police. In other words, the file that was sent to the DPP chambers was basically still there, and that the virtual complainant didn't undergo further questioning. Again, let's head back, Mr. Caesar. Let's head back to Ms. Washington for her response to this particular latest development. Your take, Ms. Washington.
I've said it before that I'm not understanding, because a charge is laid at the level of the police. You understand? The police are the ones who initiate the charges. And if the police did not initiate any charge whatsoever, why did the police send the file to the DPP? The file should not have gone to the DPP yet. The files, if they had sufficient evidence and they believe that charges should have been laid against Dharamlal, just based on the statements only, they could have charged Dharamlal and send this before the magistrate for a papal committal. And then the file goes to the DPP. And if the DPP disagree with the magistrate, then she could send it back to the magistrate and tell the magistrate that, I don't believe you have a sufficient case. But in this case, this is the most strange. This is the strangest rape case that I'm hearing about, where the file just goes to the police. The police refuse to lay charge, but they put Dharamlal on bail. How much you said, Mark? $1 million?
1 million. We're not sure whether he paid it or not, but that's just what we heard.
Right. So this is the strangest rape case I've ever, heard about, where the file is with the police. No charges laid, but they put Dharamlal on bail. Bail for what? When you knew very well you didn't believe the allegations had sufficient merits in it for you to lay any charge. But then you take a file that you don't believe has any merits and you send it to DPP for what? The police has to lay the charges. The DPP prosecutes in the high court. The DPP don't even have no business in the magistrate court, to be honest, Mark. And this is why this whole thing is just ain't looking right to me. It looks from the beginning it was a setup for a failure, because what should have happened if the police believed that there was sufficient information, sufficient evidence to lay charges against Dharamlal? That's what they should have done. Send the file to the magistrate. But from the beginning, they did not want to lay any charges against Dharamlal. They knew that Dharamlal would walk. Eventually, they would have gotten the victim to cave. So what they did is take the allegations, take all the statements from the victims and the witnesses, then send the file, put Dharamlal on bail, then send the file to the DPP. It makes no sense. Police department in Ghana, please make this make sense, because you're the ones who have to lay the charges. It is initiated from you. Then it goes to the magistrate, then to the DPP. Ghana have everything backwards. It's back to front. You understand? Everything is mixed up, and we're living in a mixed up society where people don't even know their rights. They don't even understand the procedure. And because they themselves, the police, don't know procedure, you understand? The police didn't study criminal law procedure. You understand? The DPP herself doesn't know procedure, and then everything is just confusing in Guyana. So when people see things happening, they don't even know it's not correct. Why? Because everything has been done the wrong way for so long that people are used to corruption. They're used to things being done back to front. You put the cart before the horse. So them themselves, they're confused. It doesn't happen this way. The normal procedure in any criminal case, it goes to the police first. The police investigate. They determine whether or not they should be laying any charges against the person. Once they lay the charge, it goes to the magistrate. The magistrate determines whether there's sufficient evidence there, because the magistrate has legal training. You understand? So the magistrate now sits and review the file on a paper committal and determine, okay, there is sufficient evidence here that I need to send this. I need to commit this person for a trial in the high court. And then once that happens, once the DPP the magistrate makes that decision, then it goes to the DPP, because the DPP are the ones who has to prosecute before the high court. So when the file now gets to the DPP, if they think that there's not sufficient evidence here, I would not prevail in the high court on this type of charges. There's not sufficient evidence to sustain the level of charge or this indictable offense that this person is charged with. They could send it back to the magistrate and tell the magistrate to change your decision, because your decision to send this person to trial, it's not right, and they'll give a reason why. But this whole thing is broken. It's a setup. It's wrong. It's inaccurate. It's an error. It's an erroneous decision. And you people need to wake up and recognize that you living in a country that is erroneous. You have an erroneous government, erroneous DPP, the erroneous police department. They're making erroneous decisions. And Guyanese, wake up. The whole thing was a setup from the beginning.
Lots and lots of erroneous decisions indeed. Lots and lots of erroneous decisions indeed. 3 minutes after 10 o'clock, Mr. Caesar, the statement by the Guyana Police Force, it says here, in part, it says, the Guyana Police Force wishes to categorically state that at all times the highest level of professionalism, I want to laugh, but this is a serious matter. The highest level of professionalism coming from the Guyana Police Force? They've got to be kidding. But anyways, continues here. It says, the highest level of professionalism was adopted during the investigation into an alleged rape made against Minister Nigel Darmla. They continue. As a result, the Guyana Police Force wishes to condemn the dangerous and mischievous attempts made by several social media personalities and an online news outlet to obscure and contort the facts in this matter. Over to you, Mr. Caesar. Your take on what we just heard from the quote unquote high level professionalism coming from the Guyana Police Force. I don't know what professionalism that is, but your take, Mr. Caesar.
Okay, Mark, my take on this is that I would beg to differ with this statement that was given by the Guyana Police Force. And first of all, this statement sounds like a statement written by Barrett Jagdeo. Let me just be
Oh no,
clear on that.
Barrett
No,
doesn't. Barrett can't. 1 second, Barrett can't write like that. It came from somebody else, not Barrett, not Darren
uh,
Lal, not none of those guys. Please don't do
well,
that to us, Mr. Caesar.
don't.
Go ahead,
Well,
sir.
okay, yeah, I totally disagree with that statement about professionalism. Professionalism where? First of all, a young lady came and she reported that she was raped. Okay? An investigation was not launched immediately. The ball has already dropped there. Then you have a commander that wants the young lady to sign to a statement that he wants her to sign to. He doesn't want the statement that she is giving. Okay? The ball is dropped there again. Now the government, what they do, they have people in all these places. The PPPC has spread their wings. Okay, they have really spread their wings. They have the DPP, they have the commanders, they have the police commissioner, they have everybody lined up. So if there's any case or any complaint against the government, they already have their I's dotted and their T's crossed. So that's not going anywhere, as we would have seen with this case. Just to take it a little further here, I know we are talking about, let the system work. There is no system in Guyana under the PPPC. There is just corruption and lawlessness. Systems provide structure. And when we look at what's going on in Guyana, we could see that there is no structure there whatsoever, from the top right down to the bottom. Everybody's lawless, everybody's in corruption, everybody's passing money under the table. Let's be frank here. This is not a government. I'm going to say it again. This is a criminal organization. There's nothing in place to the people of Guyana. Governments are in place to serve the people, to empower the people. Where is the empowerment that's going out to the Guyanese people? Mark, these people, they're wasting our time here, man. They really are.
Yes, I understand how you feel, Mr. Caesar. Certainly, I'm glad that they are actually allowing us to expose them even for their ills, their sins, and their corruption there. So, Miss Washington, you heard that report there from the police. Your take?
Mark, I just want to say something because I saw one person here just made a comment about what she believes to be the purpose of the DPP. She just alluded that the DPP, the file goes to the DPP. And, I'm going to say this again. So for those of you who might be a little bit slow, I don't mean no disrespect to anybody, but I think some people take a little bit longer to understand things. So some of those who might be making comments that they themselves do not listen keenly to understand what the speaker is saying, I want to say this. Not because something is being done a particular way means that it is correct, means that it is authorized by statute. Not because you see something is being practiced. For instance, like I heard that they put people on bail when they're not charged in Guyana. Not because you see it happening means it is correct. It just means that the person who's doing it might be ignorant of what they're supposed to do. And they have seen this practice been happening over a certain amount of time, and they choose to follow that practice. Okay? I just want you to get that. Now, the purpose of the DPP, they do initiate or take over and prosecute any case in a court. It has to be before the court. Understand this, people. The case has to be before the court. The DPP is not the police, okay? The DPP prosecute cases. They could take it over. They could decide if the magistrate determined that the person should not be tried. They could say, well, we're going to proceed and initiate the charges, or okay? People understand the police serves a purpose. They must be the first person that the case go to, and they're required to investigate, take statements, and determine whether or not they themselves believe that there's sufficient case, there's sufficient evidence to lay the charge. The charges are initiated at the level of the police, not at the level of the DPP. They don't come into the picture yet. It has to go before the court first. So go back and read what the Constitution says. They could initiate, take over, prosecute any case that is before the court. Read and understand. It doesn't mean that it goes to the DPP yet. You understand? So people need to understand how your system's supposed to work versus the way it's actually working. A lot of things, like I said before, are done. They put the cart before the horse in Guyana. And because the people of Guyana have been sitting under with a veil over their eyes for so many decades, they don't even know what is right from what is wrong. They'll tell you, this is what I've been seeing the whole time. This is what I know it to be. But nobody ever takes the time to go research and determine whether or not what is actually happening, whether or not it's correct. And this is why a democracy works based on the court system, the judicial system, because people recognizes when something doesn't look right and they challenge it. How many people challenge things in Guyana? They rarely do. They often, when a decision is rendered against them, or there's an adverse decision against them, they just back off and take what they get. But until the people recognize that there's things you could challenge by doing some research. You could become your own pro bono attorney. Your own attorney, your pro se. become a pro se litigant, go and research for yourself, understand the issue, and go represent yourself. Because a lot of people, even some of the attorneys in Ghana, don't even understand the procedure.
Well, some people who are attorneys just went through law school. They're not really effective. They're not competent lawyers. I know quite a few of them in Guyana, and maybe some of them in the US and possibly some other places as well. Miss Washington and Mr. Caesar, and to our listeners, all of you wish that we can go until 2 or 3 o'clock in the morning. But here's what's coming from the police force again. They said that the Guyana police force is informed that the virtual complainant and her parents, without the assistance of any investigator, I don't believe that, or any other member of the Guyana police force, I don't believe that, prepared a statement to that effect, withdrawing the complaint. So they're saying that the virtual complainant, the little girl, along with her parents, decided that this is what they are going to do. And also a member of the child care protection. So the parent decided now that they're going to pay her a visit after the DPP sent back the file to the police. And suddenly the parent now, look, don't tell me that the parent probably didn't get a phone call. Hey, man, go and talk to the girl, man. Go and talk to Shina, man. Right? Man, talk to Shina, man. Talk to girl, man. And so when the parent got in there, of course, they have full access to her. I'm just assuming here, mind you, right? Don't pretend to know it all. I'm just assuming that they were able to possibly convince the little girl, not go through with it, yeah. Not go through with this thing, man. And right here and then. That's just my take on this whole thing. Mr. Caesar, let's bring you back in, sir.
Look, Mark, listen, I would say to the people of Guyana, man, you need to keep your eyes on your children, man. You need to protect your children. You don't just lose your children and just have them in the streets walking here and there and everywhere, man. It has shown that under this government, these types of behaviors happens. It has become a fabric of our country under this government. And there are many, many, many allegations, such as this allegation from this young lady. And a lot of them are swept under the rug. And a lot of parents, they take payoff just to, you know, quiet down the story. But they have to remember that that child is who would have to live with that experience for the rest of their life. It doesn't go away, it stays there forever. So, whatever was dished out, 10 million, 15 million, it doesn't fix the issue. It doesn't. And you know what? Since there wasn't a conviction here, this is going to be business as usual. So I tell you, hold on to your children, hold your children tight, man.
Absolutely. Thank you so much, Mr. Caesar. Hold your children tight. Do not compromise anything. They have some parents out there who will just grab money and just finish off stories. Not saying that this is the case here at all. I don't know. We can just imagine what really happened there with that little girl. It could be that she was under pressure in terms of just saying, look, forget about it. But the minute the DPP sent back that file to the police, this is what the police in their conclusion says, Miss Washington, and this might probably put a smile on your face coming from the Guyana police force. This is serious development, which can undermine criminal investigations, resulting in serious miscarriage of justice. There's already miscarriage of justice. Miss Washington, that's the final statement from the Guyana police force. I know you would have laughed at that, but go ahead.
I mean, from the time they refused to charge Dharmlal, because as you know, the police have 72 hours after they arrest any accused person to lay charges. And from the time they allowed Dharmlal to walk within that 72 hours without laying any charges, they already knew there would have been a miscarriage of grave one, too. Grave miscarriage of justice, because we know that that police officer attempted to influence the victim even before this even got to the police. So the police cannot, unless the person who's making that statement is maybe he was ignorant of what was going on and that was the commissioner. I don't know who made that statement,
No,
but
not Miss What, not the Commissioner of Police. He cannot write such a statement at all. He can probably write just the alphabet A, B, C, D, E, F, G. But go ahead. Didn't come from him. Sorry, Miss.
whosoever made that statement, Mark, is ignorant of of the factual procedure in this case. Because if they follow through with the factual procedure, they would know that the police was involved in the beginning with trying to tamper with the witness. From the time he made contact with that witness, we should know, or the Guyanese people should have known, that this case was a dead end. And this is why I kept saying I never stressed on the rapist part, because I had no confidence whatsoever, because I know I could stress on the pedophile aspect because it's a social construct and we have sufficient information to conclude that Darmlal is a pedophile. He has a preference for children. He has a sexual preference for children. That's all that means. So the police now coming out and say that they knew this from the beginning, or they should have known. They ought to have known that by having one of their own tamper with the witness, and then police, I heard, tampered with the witness's statements, if that is correct, they should have known that this would have been a grave miscarriage of justice, that it would have eventually ended up this way. And I was hopeful when I heard that the child was taken into child protective service. I was hopeful that they would have actually protected that child from influence of the parent or any other outside influence. I was hoping that they would have kept her in a safe place, in a safe house, so that they would protect her mentally, emotionally, and psychologically, that she would preserve her sanity to still be able to stand up. I want to go to court and bring Nigel Daramlal down, bring him before the justice system, and make him answer for the crime that he is alleged to have committed. But, we know the society in which we live in. There's no protection whatsoever for that victim. So, and then the police didn't handle this properly. So the police should now come out and pretend like they're concerned. They're
It,
not.
that's just them pretending that they're so concerned and saying here. I had to smile when I saw that, which development, meaning the social media folks and some online news entity they have mentioned without naming, that a serious development which can undermine criminal investigations, resulting in serious miscarriages of justice. Let me just remind the police force of this particular case: two wanted for execution of paper shorts. Let me also remind the Guyana Police Force, especially the guy who's now the acting police commissioner, that guy that he's standing there with, Azruddin Mohammed, was accused of killing paper shorts, along with this guy, murder suspect Mark Richmond, who is a security guard for Azruddin Mohammed. That is what was reported. And we haven't heard anything about the matter. We haven't heard that Azruddin Mohammed and his security guard, Mark Richmond, being arrested. And instead of correcting what was wrong and what was said by this policeman, Detective Sergeant Bascom, they moved to quickly and swiftly cover up the matter and charge Bascom with cybercrime and so forth and so on. When they held that press conference on that day, the acting police commissioner and the crime chief, both of them lied to the nation. They lied to the people. They were just basically there to cover things up. Is that what they're talking about, a miscarriage of justice suddenly now? Look at this here. A business entity there in Guyana, a so-called business entity, got men with these sort of guns, heavy machine guns, and battering citizen, a businessman who went to uplift his money. Is that what they're talking about, a miscarriage of justice? Shame on the Guyana police force. Shame on those guys. And look, another case, if you want to talk about a miscarriage of justice. Look, this little Lagu Bagu, a security guard working for a security firm, the security firm said to be owned by Ramnaresh Sarwan's father, set to be owned by him. Look, this guy pulled a gun on another guy in a drive-through lying there at Starbucks. Nothing. We haven't heard anything about this matter. Anything at all about this matter. But yet the goddamn Guyana police force, they have this audacity to come out and say publicly that people are undermining the criminal justice investigations, resulting in serious miscarriages of justice. Shut the hell up until you can go after these vagabonds in society. Go after them. Go after these vagabonds. Then you can talk about miscarriage of justice. To hell with you guys in the Guyana police force. Now back to this Dharam Lal situation. He must go. And we want to end with this here now. Let the system work. Let the system work. It's not working. And for those who came out publicly and tried to brainwash the people of Guyana, tried to brainwash citizens into thinking that there is actually a system that can work for the people, knowing all along that the system is broken, it doesn't work, and those who wanted the system to work, read my lip, those who wanted the system to work knew that they were part of a bigger diabolical conspiracy to brainwash the citizens of this country, of Guyana, mind you, of Guyana, especially in this case, allegations of rape against Nigel Dharimlal. Something isn't right at all. And whenever people come to tell you, trust the system, can we ever trust them again? Your closing remarks, starting off with Mr. Caesar, please.
Yes, my closing remarks, Mark, trust the system. Okay, I'm going to start with the police department. You guys want us to trust the system? Then let's look into the Trevor Rose murder. Let's look into the Courtney Crum Ewing murder. Let's look into the Peter Headley murder. Let's look into the murder of the two Henry boys. Let's look into the murder of Harish Singh. Okay, let's try to dig in and get these cases solved. This is for also you, Attorney General Anil Nandalal. You guys want the system to work? Well, then show us that the system works. Let's get into some crime solving and stop harassing the people of Guyana. To the Guyana Police Force, I want to say this to you guys. I'm not going to say that every policeman in the Guyana Police Force is a rogue element. But remember this, the people of Guyana are your clients. The people of Guyana pay their taxes, unlike many of the businesses around Georgetown. And you guys know yourselves, not all businesses, but many of them around Georgetown. So the people of Guyana would have purchased your guns, they would have purchased your vehicles, okay? And they allow you to make a living so that you can take care of your family. So you don't get them in the street and treat them like if they're pigs, because they're absolutely not that. They're your clients. They need to be treated with dignity and respect. And to the government, let's stop making business deals, man. Let's start taking care of the people. Okay, you don't develop a country with infrastructure. Yes, infrastructure you can develop a country with, but it is secondary. You start to develop your country by first developing your people, edifying and educating them, empowering them and preparing them, to go out there and earn for themselves and not depend on $40,000 handouts that are temporary in nature. And lastly, for the government, please do the people of Guyana a favor and fire Nigel Darmlal.
Thank you
That's
so
it
much,
for me.
Mr. Wayne Caesar. Well said. Over to Attorney at Law, Shalon Washington. The system doesn't work. It is broken. Your closing remarks, please.
Thank you again, Mark, for having me on the show, and thank you to all the listeners who, you stayed through the entire program. You shared the link, you commented. We've read your comments. Some of you made very valuable points. I've been reading your comments, and I want to say thank you to all of you. And the system is indeed a broken system, and the system cannot work. I just want to highlight one more thing for you before I finish up my closing, Mark. I want you to understand when I mentioned earlier that the charges has to be initiated at the level of the police. Some of you may or may not know that they are police prosecutors. The police in the police force, they are trained prosecutors. And this is because Every single charge has to be initiated there because we follow the British system. So we have trained prosecutors in the police force. So when the police decides to charge any person with a criminal offense, they have to use their prosecutors at the preliminary inquiry level. In this case, because it's a sexual offense and it falls under the Sexual Offenders Act or the Sexual Offense Act, there is a papal committal. So it means that the police would have gathered all the information and they would have been the one to determine at that point. If the DPP was the only prosecutor, then I would have agreed that every single file has to go to the DPP. But however, because the law permits for police officers to be trained prosecutors, that is why everything has to start from the police force and then go to the magistrate, and from the magistrate to the DPP, because the DPP are the only ones who can prosecute before the High Court. Now, I want you guys to wake up and recognize that your system is broken. Our system, because I'm Guyanese too, we're all in the same boat and we all want to see a system that is repaired. We want to see at some point in the future that everything comes together and fixes itself because we are putting the work in. Understand, people of Guyana, nothing is going to work on its own unless we stand up and we do the work and put everything together by ourselves, by hitting the streets, by putting pressure on the government. Dharam Lal must not be allowed to serve in any other public office. He must be forced out of office. If the PPP will not fire him, the people of Guyana have that power to ensure that he never serves again. Guyana is your country. It's our country. It's not the PPP's country. Always remember that. Keep that at the forefront of your mind. Every time you think about the way our country is going, remember, Guyana, it's our country. It's not the PPP country. You own them. They do not own you. You hire them and they are supposed to do what you're asking them. And if they refuse, then the next step is they have to go, because we are not, as a people, going to sit idle and allow a pedophile to continue to serve our nation, to destroy our young women and to destroy our country and to embarrass the people of Guyana by causing the world to see us as a country that is dirty, that is lawless, that is without moral values. We have good morals, and I want to tell you, we got to fight to keep our Guyana together. It's our country, and we need to make democracy a priority. Guyana will emerge eventually as a democratic society. Someday we will overcome. Thank you guys so much for staying through and for commenting again. Thank you all for your support, for the love. I appreciate you guys. And, I'm going to start giving shout out, because every time a new client call, they're telling me that they got the number from someone of you, might have referred that person. I want to say thank you. I might not remember to call everyone's name that sends a referral, but I want to say thank you. I appreciate all of you, all of the support. And I want to say thank you, Mark. Thank you, Wayne. I think we all contributed well, and I hope the people who are viewing this show tonight have learned a lot.
All right. Thank you so much as well, all our listeners also. And this is my chance for my closing remarks. It may take about 25 minutes. And just like I sat and listened to y'all have to sit and listen to mine as well. Here goes my closing remarks. The Guyana Police Force is like a dangerous cancer. Lots and lots of corrupt senior members of the Guyana Police Force. Some of them are taking cars from drug lords, money launderers, gold smugglers. All these things they're taking to turn a blind eye and corrupt the justice system. They are part of that corruption. They are part of that miscarriages of justice. They have been that way for a while. A lot of them who are in senior positions in the Guyana Police Force are questionable individuals. A lot of them are connected to drug lords. A lot of them are part and parcel of killing squads out there. A lot of them are part and parcel of money launderers and gold smugglers. They go to the highest bidders. That is what they do. Some of them have 4, 5, 6 houses they're building. And then when they need building materials, they go to places like Gafour's and other places and get free materials. And then they get free house lots, and then they get free land, they get free houses, all these things that they do. If you check these policemen, these senior police officers, you check their salaries and compare it to their lifestyle, compare it to the properties that they own, compare it to the cars that they drive, and you will understand exactly what I'm talking about. They have no moral authority to write any press release and to try to talk about social media persons or some online newspaper or whatever. They have none of that. Check the background of all of those corrupt senior police officers. Look, I have my view about this case, just as I've had my view as to why they protect guys like Azruddin Mohammed and them, why they go by Azruddin's Mohammed office and line up outside, scores of them to collect a little 20,000, a little 10,000, a little 40,000, a little 50,000. And when you get businessmen under questionable circumstances, businessmen who are said to be under investigations of U.S. law enforcement agencies for money laundering, for drug dealing, for assassinations, for terrorism, and all these sort of things, and you have policemen are seen at the offices and the business places of these individuals, when you have the acting top cop is seen in photographs with these individuals. Yet the Guyana police force want to talk about miscarriages of justice? Give us a break. They're the ones that have destroyed this little girl's case. They're the ones who have forced this little girl into a corner so that she can say, look, she has had enough. This was all set. And while the Guyana police force needs to be blamed for this, Irfan Ali needs to be blamed as well. Jagdev needs to be blamed as well. Priya Manikchan needs to be blamed as well. The Minister of Social Services needs to be blamed as well. And you know what? The DPP also. Shame on all of them. I don't know. We've got to pray for Guyana. And those who talk about, let us give the system a chance. This is what happened. Shame on you guys who said, let us give the system a chance. Shame on those who said, give the system a chance. The system is broken. The system is corrupt and contaminated. We can only change the system when we change the government. Y'all prepare for elections in 2025. Thank you so much, Ms. Washington. Thank you so much, Mr. Caesar. And to all of our listeners, thank you all for watching. Tonight is not a good night. Shame on those running the system in Guyana. If y'all don't stand up and protect the system, it will continue to destroy every single one of you. This girl today, who is next? Shame on Dharamlal. We've got to go. Thank you, Ms. Washington. Have a great weekend. Mr. Caesar, have a great weekend, sir.
Thank you, Mark. You too.
Thank you.
And to all our listeners, have a great weekend also. Shame. Shame on Irfan Ali. Shame on Dharamlal. Shame on Ali Haq. Shame on those who say, let the system work. If I have my way, I will whisper in the ear of the U.S. Secretary of State, Anthony Blinken, if I had my way, and ask him to please cancel your visit to Guyana. Cancel your visit to Guyana. That's all. But I'm just ordinary guy. Does a little babysitting job and that's it. See you guys. Hopefully soon. God bless you. Continue to pray for the country. All of you. All of you. And pray for that little girl. She's 16 years old. Someone or some folks have manipulated her. That is exactly what has happened. She didn't just decide at the last minute, I'm done. She was manipulated. That's all I wish to say. Shame on you, Irfan Ali. Have a good night, guys. Continue to pray for Guyana. God bless you.
So, this is attorney Shellen Washington, owner and founder of the Washington Law Firm, located at 455 Utica Avenue in Brooklyn, New York. We're specialized in medical malpractice, personal injuries, matrimonial law, and landlord and tenant. If you're in need of legal representation, please give us a call today. The number to call is 718-877-3100. Consultation is free at no cost to you. So call us today to see if we can be of any assistance to your legal needs. Again, the phone number to call us is 718-877-3100.